Hey everyone, so I'm gonna walk you through my process for turning Dobby's habitat at school into a bioactive habitat. I've already done this for Bushy at home because he's at home currently, but I have not done it yet for Dobby. My students have been asking where Dobby is, so they're really excited for her to come back, and I just want to walk you through it. I know you guys have been asking questions. I know bioactive habitats are really interesting. I personally am really excited about it because Dobby loves to poop. She poops all the time, as most hedgehogs do. They're kind of messy. And so the idea will be that the springtails and the isopods will help break down the waste, and I won't have to clean it as often, but also it will connect with her more naturalistic roots because they're not domestic animals, they are exotic animals, hedgehogs, and so this is a chance for her to get used to a real habitat. So what I've started doing so far, it takes a little while, is using this coconut fiber bedding. It's the kind of the base of the substrate, and so these are natural compressed because it's just cheaper to do it this way. They're little bricks, and so the idea is that I take these and I put them in a bucket in my classroom sink, and I'm kind of just breaking them down so that they eventually turn into this. So this is what it looks like when the bedding has been taken out of the compressed big form and turned into this like coconut fiber dirt almost is like the best way to put it. So this is one brick so far, and I'm just kind of trying to see how much of it I need to use to just have like a good layer. I'm gonna make something into this, but this is like a good starting layer, so I'm kind of just spreading it out to see how many bricks I'm gonna need. Her cage is the Midwestern green line cage. This is kind of her setup at school with her little corner where people have drawn pictures for her, and we got some information and things, but this is one brick, so I'm probably gonna need to do the other three as well, so I'll show you kind of how that works in the sink. So what I'm doing, my hands are a little bit dirty, is I'm taking the bricks and I am kind of putting them in upright inside of my bucket, and I think this is like a 2-gallon bucket, just like from your home improvement store. And so I'm taking one of the bricks and I am putting it in kind of like this, and I'll turn on the water and break it up with my hands. It's just a wooden spoon I've been using. But it's a lot easier to do with warm water, but my classroom doesn't have warm water. We only have cold water, so it's a little bit slow of a process, but the idea is that the water is kind of breaking down the fiber so that it will become that dirt that you saw. Basically, when I'm breaking down the brick, they're just like kind of, it can be thick pieces like this, and so I'm just trying to tear it all up and get it all, it kind of becomes this like almost soupy mixture as you're pulling everything off. It's this like very soupy looking mixture. It's a little less, you can kind of see it, it's soupy. And so I'm just breaking the brick down. It's definitely dirty work if you don't like getting your hands dirty. This is not the way to go to get the coconut fiber, just get the bag. But sort of you can see like the brick sort of splitting apart. And then I'm just breaking down all of these pieces to get it in the bottom of the cage. Okay, so at this point I have created a bunch of the coconut fiber bedding. I've used 3 of those bricks that I showed you. When I did Bushy's habitat, I only used 2, but the difference is like Dobby's habitat is pretty wide, and I would rather have a little bit more so I can create hills and things like that than not have it. So what I'm doing right now is emptying out the bucket, and then I will show you kind of the next step in the process. Okay, so at this point, we have got a base layer of the coconut fiber. So we have a really big layer of the coconut fiber. You can't exactly see it because it's not clear, but I can kind of get you down in here. So this kind of goes to down here, and so I've just kind of put a layer down here. It's moist, and it's definitely like to the touch it feels wet, but it's not sopping wet, because we don't want it sopping wet. We just want it moist to help it retain the moisture for the bugs. And then the next thing that we were going to be adding is Sphagnum moss. Okay, so this is our next layer in our bottom of our bioactive habitat. This is Sphagnum moss, and it's, again, this is kind of like the bricks for the coconut fiber. It is just cheaper this way. You can get it in a different kind of bag. I got mine in like a brick form, and so it's dry right now. It kind of looks like almost like that stuff that you would find in the ocean, like a type of coral or a type of seaweed. And so I need this wet to get in here because it's going to help retain a lot of moisture, which will be really helpful when I'm doing like my daily spritzes of the ground to make sure everything is doing its job and everything is moist, that the bugs are staying alive. And so when I did Bushy's habitat, because I was doing it at my house, I didn't have as much space to work with, so I used my like pressurized spritzer to kind of spray everything down. But here I'm gonna put this in the bucket in my classroom sink and kind of just get it really wet, and then I'm gonna mix it in with the coconut fiber. All right, so I'm gonna put just like a bunch of handfuls of moss. I'm gonna need to definitely break it up. And I'll break it up some now, and I'll break it up some, when I'm putting it in the actual habitat. I had a harder time breaking it up when it was wet, so I'm gonna try breaking it up when it's dry and see how that goes. Error could just be with me, I don't know. So I'm kind of just breaking up this moss in my big bucket that I mixed my dirt in, so everything's kind of like going in the same pot. It's very sponge-like, which is pretty awesome for retaining moisture. I have a Venus flytrap at home, and the whole bottom of the plant is covered in Sphagnum moss because it just retains moisture really, really well. So I've angled the camera so you can kind of see where I'm working, and you can see my hands. So basically, I've got my bucket, and in it I have my Sphagnum moss that's nice and wet. And so what I'm going to do right now is kind of like get it in here, and it's still super wet, but I'm trying to just like rip it up and spread it out amongst the dirt. I'm not gonna leave it on top like the layer I'm sort of creating right now. I'm just putting it in here so I can see how much I have in here, and then I'm gonna mix it all up with the dirt. Okay, so you can see now that I kind of spread it out, and I started to mix it together. I just want to, not trying to overdo it, not trying to underdo it. I'm just trying to make sure that the Sphagnum moss is pretty well mixed in with that coconut fiber, so that, everything is maintaining that moisture that it needs. And I've got this really nice thick layer of dirt and moss for the bugs to live in. You definitely will see some of the moss at the top. There's definitely some moss at the bottom at this point. It's kind of just a little bit everywhere. So that is where I am with that. What I'm gonna do at this point is I'm gonna plant my plant that I got. So this is also from Josh's Frogs. It is way bigger than I thought it would be. So I'm gonna have to snake it through the wire on the top of her cage. But basically, this is a mother's tongue snake plant. I do have to say they packaged everything really nicely when they sent it to me. This isn't like, we don't have anything to do with Josh's Frogs. I just really like their products, and so does Samira. And so, it's all taped up, and so I'm gonna try to pick a spot within the cage where the plant is gonna make the most sense. She tends to sleep over here. I also have her heat lamp and her humidifier over here, and her wheel is more over to the left, so I think I'm gonna kind of do it up front here towards the left, but I'm gonna go ahead and get this guy planted. Got my snake plant here, and it It is so big, way bigger than I thought it would be. But it's pretty awesome that it is really big. It definitely will add something. Samira hasn't had a lot of luck with plants in her bioactive habitat for her hedgehog. She said that Owie Kapowie tended to rip them up, which I honestly don't know how it's gonna go for Dobby. She's never really had anything like this. So, it might go really well, and she doesn't rip it up. It might not, honestly. She's a little bit of a wild card. She's still a baby. She's not even 1 yet. And so she sort of reacts in a way to new things in her environment, much like a baby does, and that she's interested in them for a little bit, and then she kind of doesn't care anymore. And she goes about her business and really can't be bothered. So what I'm gonna do now is I am going to get the ABG mix. And it's Josh's Frogs ABG mix, and it looks like this. And so it's 4 quarts. It's got, so basically the idea is that it stands for Atlantic Botanical Gardens, and it's a mix of premium starters for naturalistic Vivaria. And so it's got some dirt, it's got some rocks, it's got some substrates and charcoal down here. And so the idea is that I'm just gonna need to mix this up really well. I'm just mixing both of these ABG mixes up. And it's not gonna be perfect, but the best that you can mix them up. Some people like to put water inside of the mix. I find that really challenging to shake it up. So basically what I'm gonna do is pour the mix down, and then I'm gonna spray it with my big mister in an effort to just make sure it's as moist as the other stuff, because remember, the bugs are living in it, they are a part of it, and so I just want to make sure that it's the best suitable environment for them. So I just realized that I had skipped a step, which is cool. It happens sometimes. It happens when I was building the thing for Bushy. So actually before the ABG mix is going in, so right now I planted my plant, I have the sangam moss, I have the coconut fiber, and so the next thing I'm gonna add is a leaf litter, and it looks like this. This is also from Josh's Frogs. These are, I believe, magnolia leaves, and so it's just a bunch of dead leaves that I'm gonna put on top of the dirt, and this is for the bugs to eat off of. It just helps also with the decay process. It's definitely weird to pay someone for bags of dead leaves, but it is helpful, and I don't want my bugs to die because that would be more expensive in the long run for me having to replace the bugs. So I'm gonna just sprinkle the leaves all over. So we've got habitat, and now I'm kind of just sprinkling leaves along here. I'm gonna end up covering them up, so there's really no super rhyme or reason to how they get spread out. They're just available for the bugs. The leaves in there, and so now I'm gonna do this sand cover. And this is, let me see if you can see it. Let me reposition this. So this is, I actually got this off Amazon because this was cheaper there. So it's a soil cover. It is for, house plants, so it's totally okay to use. And so it's just there to absorb any moisture if there's too much. And so I'm kind of just gonna sprinkle this like I'm sprinkling salt. All right, so at this point, I've kind of spread the ABG mix. You can sort of see it. I ended up just using 1 bag. And instead of spraying in, or putting water in the bag and shaking it, I'm just using my pump and sort of going along and spraying. I'm just trying to make sure everything is kind of nice and damp, so that it's ready for the bugs. I really like this pump. I originally had one of the spray bottles when I was setting up bushes, and I honestly got a hand cramp and was really sad by the end, so I'm a huge fan of this. And this is just from Petsmart. It's the Thrive, just plant sprayer. I think it was in the reptile section. So ABG mix is in, dead leaves are in, so now it's time for me to add the bugs. And so in this little container, I have the dwarf tropical white isopods. They're just in this really small container. So it's best for me to put these where most of the waste is gonna be made. And I have her wheel back here normally, so I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle the isopods over this way. So they're in the right spot. They'll end of spreading everywhere, but the goal will be for them to start out in a space that makes the most sense for them to be in terms of the waste that they're gonna clean up. I don't know if I can show you what they look like. So let's see how good this will work. So you see these little kind of like white creatures that are crawling around? Let me try focusing. There's like one right over here near the edge that's crawling. So these are the isopods. And I'm just gonna sprinkle them, you know, around over here. They will definitely find their way, you know, they'll bury themselves into the ground. And so the idea is just to, like, you know, kind of get them where all her poop will be on the wheel, and so they can eat it up. The next thing that we'll add are the springtails. They are in this container. I used half the container already with Bushy, so I'm gonna use a little bit more, and there's charcoal in here that will go too. And they are already jumping out of this one. So again, just kind of sprinkling them everywhere so that they are, you know, they'll get where they need to be and get inside our habitat. It's also helpful to kind of fill this with water, and if there's any left, they'll sort of swim to the top, and I can sort of drain them out, so I will show you that too. Floats to the top in any way. They might not. Oh, there they all are. So you can kind of see maybe a little bit better. Let's see. See all the little white things? Those are all of the springtails that have kind of floated to the top that I am gonna now put into the habitat. And so the last thing that goes in, which is kind of pretty big, is Reptibark. And this again is also in the reptile section. It literally looks like pieces of bark. And so I'm kind of just gonna spread this all around. I'm gonna make a pretty good layer because I realized that Bushy really liked a strong layer of this. And so the idea is that it's just like more comfortable for them to walk on, which is easier oftentimes. So I've got Dobby here with me. She just got a bath because she was really stinky. She hadn't had one in a while because she had been at home with me, and I've just had to be most vigilant. So I'm gonna put her down in the habitat and we are gonna see what she thinks. Here, I'm gonna put her in and we're gonna see. So she's definitely smelling around. She's not very sure. Here are her wheels over here. She's got her water and her food. She's got a little tube. Her blanket she still likes is inside. One of the other big questions that we got on Instagram was how to clean and maintain it over periods of time, and the goal will be that we really don't have to clean it because the bugs will do what they need to do. In terms of maintenance, this is the first time I've done a bioactive habitat, so I can definitely keep you guys up to date on that. And potentially do other videos. Videos like this are a little bit outside of my element, so this was a new experience for me, but it's been cool. I've liked talking about it. I love Dobby, I love all my animals, so it's been really cool to learn and then to tell other people about it. So yeah, that's us. So I'm gonna clean up, go home. It's been a long day. I'll check in on Dobby in the morning when I get back from school, but it should be great. I'm excited to see what she thinks.